You have found Authentic Business Adventures, a business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We are locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. My name is James Kademan, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and helpful coach to small business owners across the country. And today we're welcoming / preparing to learn from Katie Hensel, owner of Travel Made Joyful, which is the best way it should be. So Katie, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Thanks, James. I love the shout out too.
So just, I guess, so the crowd, the viewers, listeners know, I've known you, I don't know, lots of years, and you
Right.
started out with Try for Kids.
Mm-hmm.
And then can you tell us, I guess, let's go way back and talk about the transition. What made you decide to shift gears? Because it's probably safe to say that these are not very related.
Correct. I think, yeah, that's a safe bet. So yeah, I started Try for Schools in 2011. So, and built that from, an idea in my head to, an organization that, had, 3 full-time staff, and, had year-round programming and events and those kinds of things. And, was doing a lot of good in our community in Dane County here. But I started to just think that, like, gosh, in order for this to be truly successful, I really need, this to be able to live beyond me. And if I ever decided I wanted to do something different, I wanted to be able to make it so that it was something that, was sustainable and would be able to live on. And so I kind of started putting a plan in place. We had a strategic planning committee that met and kind of started building in a lot of the processes that you'd need to make sure that a business could survive that founder syndrome,
Mhm.
And so that started in 2019. And then lo and behold, 2020 came around and we had a pandemic to deal with. So we were kind of trying to keep things going, but also continuing to build, on that foundation. And it was during that summer that I sort of realized a couple things. I got to do a lot of traveling, surprisingly, during the pandemic. A lot
Nice.
of planning and things like that to make sure we could go places that were open safely. And I realized, like, gosh, not only do I really enjoy this, but, like, I'm pretty good at it. And we'd figured out how to, like, offset a lot of our costs and things like that. And I was just really enjoying the extra time with my kids. And we also kind of realized that, gosh, they're halfway to being out of the house, at this point. And so I said, well, if I were to, start a different career, I would really love to have it be a career that combined, things that I really love to do, like travel and see new places, with being able to spend a little bit more time with my kids while they, want to be around me. And so, we kind of, thankfully, Try for Schools was able to navigate the pandemic well and come out the other end. And so in September of 2021, I kind of started a transition and we hired our new executive director, who's doing a fantastic job. And she made the leadership transition incredibly smooth. And that's going really well. And so I realized, like, well, I now can feel free to kind of start something, in this travel industry if I want to. And so that was kind of, like, how things got started. And so it did feel a little bit like starting over, but it was a fun place to, to begin.
Sure. Well, that's when you start a new business, right? That's kind of the honeymoon period when you first start it. After you've been with
Right.
it for a decade, you're kind of like in that 7-year itch period, I suppose, or something of that
Yeah. Well, I
nature.
know. And it was like, everyone's like, well, what happened or what went wrong? And I was like, well, nothing really went wrong, but, do you ever just decide you want to do something kind of new and different? And, it's kind of one of those things. And, you still want your baby to be in good hands, but you're like, okay, like, I'm ready to, our life is too short to, I think, do the same thing all the time.
Oh, I
But,
agree.
you know,
Yeah, I agree. I guess from my point of view with the business, starting a business, getting a business going, rolling with it for a few years, after a while, it's just like any other relationship where it kind of, you're like, I want to see what else is out there,
yeah,
good or
right.
bad,
Yeah,
right?
thank you. You hold on to the ones that you really need to hold on to, but it's
Right.
good to see, like, well, and it's, I mean, knowing what kinds of opportunities and things are available and knowing if it's a possibility for you. So
Hmm.
thankfully for me, it was something where, I have a really supportive husband who, had seen my body of work by, all the trips I'd planned for us as a family.
Yeah.
And I think coming out of the pandemic, I sort of thought, I think people are going to want to travel again. I think there have been a lot of like, these big realizations over the last, 2 years, that, we've got to make the most of the time we have. And when it's like when something's taken away from you, you realize how much you really love it. Like when we couldn't travel, I think people were like, oh man, like I could, my whole life could go by and I'd never go to Paris or, like those kinds of things. So,
it's
yeah.
interesting you say that, because there was a time that I remember getting this feeling. I was walking my dog and I'm like, I feel like I'm in a prison. It's a very large prison, right? Because it's essentially the size of the country.
Right.
But still, the fact that you can't go beyond those borders to see my sister in Canada or just wherever like that, I'm like, this sucks.
Absolutely. It's like, I wonder how many people had those same thoughts. Like I definitely did too, where I was like, well, I wasn't thinking I wanted to go here right now, but now knowing I can't, I'm like,
now that the option's taken away, Sure. Interesting. So just, I'm going to put a link to the first interview I did with you about Try for Schools.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know how long ago that was.
Oh man.
3 years ago.
Was that 2018? Yeah. 2018, 2019.
4 years ago. It's been a while. It's been a while. Back when we could be in the studio
Few things have happened since then.
Yeah. So I want to ask you just really briefly, because we don't have to hold on to the Try for Schools thing, but that was nonprofit. So did you own it or do you sell it or what? Like how did
a nonprofit is sort of like owned by the people. Like it's like publicly, like part of the domain. So like a lot of people ask that question though. So really like I'm not an owner. I don't own like shares or stake in anything. So there's nothing to like sell. It's just like passing the torch, HR wise by hiring someone else and those kinds of things. But they're not like bound to anything other than just like the rules of incorporation or articles of incorporation and bylaws and things like that. So there's oversight that way with the board of directors, but yeah, it was like pretty easy on the like legal end. So
no money changed hands, even though essentially it's a business, even if it's a nonprofit business, there's still blood, sweat, and tears that went into that.
Yes. Yeah.
Value to the brand. I mean, stuff, systems, all that jazz.
Yeah. Well, and it was a lot of, I feel like, so we had a pretty long transition. We hired Amanda in November, and until June, I had a goal of June 1st because that's when my kids get out of school. And I really wanted to spend the summer, like being with my kids. It'd been a dream of mine to be able to have one summer off with them. And so it was a 7-month transition where it was kind of like the two of us side by side in a room or in meetings or, a lot of meeting people and, learning different processes we got to go through almost an entire year's worth of preparation just so she could kind of shadow that process. And I think that was really helpful. And then in the years prior, I'd already been kind of brain dumping things into documents. So there would be like processes that were documented and stuff. And I think having an operations director as well was helpful because there was somebody that like knew a lot of those back end processes that could also help with that. So and we've got great part-time staff that were also like running our events and programs. So like, knowing that there was a really solid core of people involved, I think helped make that a lot smoother and really allowed me, but at this point to be, completely separate. I'm a donor and a parent and volunteer, but like, that's the extent of my involvement, at least for now.
Gotcha. All right. Very cool.
Yeah.
So then when you decided, hey, I'm going to back out or bow out of this Try for Schools thing, did you know that you wanted to start this business, or did you have like, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to start a business. Or were you just like, you know what, I'm going to be done with this and I'll figure out what I want to do later?
Yeah, I definitely had an idea that this is what I wanted to be doing, but I really wasn't sure to like what end or what capacity. My goal was, I'd like for it to not be as many hours, because I was, like putting in around like 50 hours a week, I'd say. And, I was like, I'd like to have a little bit more flexibility and things like that. But I was like, I'd really love to just help people travel more, because travel's always been a passion of mine, since the first time that I went to another country. And so I really want to be able to do that. But really the passion specifically was helping people with kids travel internationally, because I've seen what it's done for our kids. Although I'd have to say, like, a lot of the people that I've been helping so far, it's really a mix of like people with kids and people without. So maybe just, then I started to realize, well, gosh, I think the biggest hurdle for a lot of people is just time. Like they want to plan something, but they don't really know where to start, or like they've got so many other irons in the fire, now that we're all back to probably like what life looked like pre-pandemic, like doesn't leave a ton of spare time, right? Yeah. Like to be planning a vacation. But like it's something where, and now the world looks a little different too. So like what people did before might not always work now. And so that's why I was like, well, maybe I can just help people by kind of taking one thing off their plates, and like maybe what also stresses people out a ton, and say like, well, I actually love this stuff. So that's so then it kind of like started focusing in on that piece of it. And I think that helped, because I was like, gosh, there's some areas I really don't want to help with of travel. And then there are some that I'm really excited to help with, with.
All right. What are the ones that you don't?
So this sounds kind of funny, but like, I'm an American and everything, but I'm like, I don't really want to help people with domestic trips. It's not my favorite. Like I'll do it, but I'm like, I want to help people get outside of the country, because I feel like that's where, for me at least, a lot of the growth happens, right?
All right.
And so I would love to do that. And it's like, also the other thing is like all inclusives and like the Mexico, Caribbean, like those things, like that's not really my jam. Again, I can do it and I'll probably do a good job at it, but if it were up to me, I would, find somebody that really loved to do that stuff and have someone go do that, like, with that
Gotcha.
with client. So fair. Yeah. So that's kind of like, I realized, like national parks, like I've been to a few of them. I think they're awesome, but I know probably very little about that compared to someone else. So like, those areas where I'm like, let's find somebody that's good at that and help people, do that way. But yeah, I want to do international stuff.
Gotcha. Interesting. It's interesting you say that about the all-inclusive stuff. My wife and I got married in Jamaica, and all-inclusive.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because even though I say that I've been to Jamaica, since we stayed at an all-inclusive resort, I feel like I don't know if we actually saw Jamaica.
Totally. Right. Well, and again, like, they're great for the purpose that you're going for. Like, and every trip can have its own goals. So if the goal is like relax, or like a destination wedding, or like, I really just want to relax with my family on a resort, I don't want to do anything, then that's like where you should totally go. But like, I have a friend that said the same thing. They went to an all-inclusive in Costa Rica, and they're like, I don't know that I'd say I saw or know much about Costa Rica because I was on the resort the whole time, and so for me, I'm like, I want people to be able to leave a trip being like, wow, I really feel like I experienced, even if it was just a portion of a particular place, like, that they really got out and, kind of got off the beaten path a little bit. So
right. Saw it. I love it.
Yeah.
So have you always traveled, or did you do this as a kid, or did this just evolve as you grew older and on your own, more or less?
Well, so a little bit of both. So like we did some travel, mostly to visit family when I was younger, like a young kid. Like my first time on a plane was at age 7, and I went to San Francisco to visit my aunt and uncle. And we did the trips to Disneyland and Disney World. But like when I was like in high school, like end of high school time, was the first time that we kind of started going a little bit further away. Like we went on a cruise, and that was, it was the Caribbean, but it's still, I was like, wow, I'm in like a different country, and like they speak Spanish primarily on this island, like, and so that really opened up the world to me a little bit, where I realized like, wow, there are like other places, and there were people working on this ship from all over. And I thought, well, the more you get out and explore, the more people you meet, the more friendships and relationships you have. And so that kind of sparked something in me where then when I went to college, I had been learning Spanish, but I was able to study abroad in Santiago in Chile. And I lived there for 6 months. And
oh, wow.
And so, yeah, like, and that experience, like 100% was probably, it changed my life for sure, but it was probably one of the best decisions that I ever made. Because while I was there, I was able to like kind of fully experience and be immersed in the culture and the language and those things. But also I was able to travel. I traveled to 5 other countries in South America when I was there, and all over Chile. And so then it was like, I was hooked from there. So
nice.
So that's kind of like, so it wasn't a ton when I was a kid, but it was, it kind of inspired me to do more. And then you start kind of stepping out, and people always talk about like the travel bug. Like once you get it,
Yeah.
You're always trying to figure out, well, where am I going to go next?
Yeah. That is so true. I can tell you, I love to travel, but
Yeah.
I think the first time I was on a plane was when I was 22, going to a buddy's wedding in Vegas.
Right, right. Well, so I was going to say for you, like, where, I guess when you've traveled, I'd be curious, like, what was it that, like, because you said you love to travel. So, like, was there a particular trip where that happened, or like a place you went where you were like, wow?
No, not necessarily. I just like meeting people and just chatting with new people,
Yeah.
trying new food, just seeing, um, I don't, you live your little secluded life and you see the same people day in and day out. And
Hmm.
sometimes I feel like you forget that
Right.
there's a whole nother world out there, or a whole rest of the world out there.
Yeah.
I guess to me, it feels like the same as holding a minimum wage job.
Mm,
Like you forget that there's people that are working for whatever, $7, $8 an hour.
right.
Or I don't know if they actually are anymore, but
Yeah.
they're, in theory, there are people making minimum wage, and you
Right.
just like you forget
Mhm.
either the value of a dollar, just like you forget there's other people. You become complacent
Right.
when you don't
Well,
move.
and on both ends of the spectrum too, right?
Hmm.
Like, there are people where you're like, wow, there are people that are, living in Monaco. And then you're like, well, there are also people living for like less than $1 a day in, like Zimbabwe and things like that,
Yeah,
where you're just like,
yeah.
wow, like, and my world contains all of those people. So
Hmm.
I just feel like the amount of experiences and knowledge and things we can gain by, getting out of our comfort zone is
Hmm.
just exponential.
Yeah, I think the people, I guess the most enjoyable people that I have to speak with or have spoken with are well traveled. And
Mm,
I think that just helps them
cool.
from a mental point of view. They have broader experiences. Just
Mhm.
so I guess their life choices and the way they go about business, or the way that they make their choices, I think are changed because they have more real world experience, I guess.
Yeah.
I
Well, I
don't
mean,
just
yeah, I'd like to think that, the first time I saw what the United States, like an American, American like perspective was when I studied abroad, like where you get outside yourself and you can kind of look back and be like, oh, I can see how they think that, or
Mm,
gosh, it's not really that way at all, and like perceptions and stuff change so much. But yeah, I think you're totally right. Like I'd like to think that it helps you see things from multiple angles rather than
mhm,
just being really narrowly focused and stuff like that. Um,
mhm,
and primarily, it seems like my biggest takeaway from travel has always been, and I don't know if you've found this, but like that the world is like in general a good place, like full
agreed.
of good people, right?
Mhm,
Like you're gonna run into jerks everywhere, but they're few
sure.
and far between from what I've experienced. And like
Mhm,
most people are, if someone's running after you in a foreign country, it's usually because you dropped something and they want to give it back to you, like kind of thing. So,
yeah, it's interesting you say that, how some people just have this fear of going outside of 10 steps from their front door or something like that.
right. Yeah. But then they don't even realize like you could get hit crossing the street, or it's like,
Mhm,
it doesn't come to your mind that like you could be unsafe anywhere,
totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So tell me about the name Travel Made Joyful. The presupposition there is that some people have less than joyful travel.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I think what was kind of funny is so like I was trying to come up with a name, like for a while. Like it's like, when you ever had to write a title for a story or something, and you
Sure.
always were like, I've got the whole story, but I can't come up with a title.
No, I get it. I get it.
So and I was like, well, I'd really like to help make travel more fun and less work,
Mhm,
for people. And I keep thinking about how like a lot of times people talk about, when they're on a trip and they're just so stressed about like the logistics of everything, or like, is everybody having a good time and whatever. And so at first I was thinking like, well, maybe like travel made easy or something, but I'm like, well, but travel a lot of times isn't easy,
mhm,
like for a variety of reasons, but you can make it fun if you change kind of like your expectations a little bit, and try to think about things in a different way. And so I really just wanted to like have people be excited and travel with a mindset that was one that was more of an abundance mindset. So I thought travel made joyful made sense.
nice.
And I thought like when you think about it in your mind, you're like, yeah, I want to be joyful when I travel. So that was, it's like it might not always be easy, but it'll hopefully almost all the time be a joyful thing. Maybe if not in
Fair.
that moment, but like when you look back on it, like, a couple hours or a week or a month later.
Hmm. So when you started this business, I want to talk about the logistics of going
Yeah.
from like, hey, I like to travel. I can help people travel. I'm
Hmm.
going to help people travel.
Yeah.
From that point to now I got to make money doing this. I got to market this. How do you map all that out? Do you talk with people that have already done this, or do you just figure it out from scratch? Like, what was your process there?
Yeah, it was a little bit of both. So thankfully, because of at Try for Schools, I was part of a couple different like networking groups. And through one of them, I met a woman named Susan Choi, and Susan is a travel agent in her own right. And so we went out for coffee, and I said, like I don't know if you're looking to mentor or take on additional people, but she said she was, because she's like, I'm really busy trying to, and she does, very, I think like more individual, like the stuff for individuals, but also then does like small group culinary focused tours around the world through her company. And I was like, well, I love food and I love traveling and I love people. So you sound like someone I want to spend some time around. And she thankfully, kind of took me under her wing, and I helped her with planning trips for her clients for about 6 months. And then found out so that she was basically part of a global, it's called the Global Travel Collection. So she's like an independent contractor or like business owner underneath that big umbrella. And
Mhm.
so I kind of decided to follow that same path. But Susan was great and kind of showed me the ropes for like 6 months or so before, like I kind of went on my own. And the great thing is like we still kind of collaborate because her specialty areas aren't the same as mine.
Mhm.
So we can refer clients to each other and things like that. So like like I kind of was able to follow her lead a little bit, which was very helpful.
All right.
Yeah, so like I wasn't able to, or I didn't have to, kind of start from scratch completely, but I was very thankful for the connection, because that, just allowed me to kind of get some experience, but like get some on like a training wheels basis first.
So do you use the same system that she does, or that whole
Yeah,
global?
we use like the same, like booking software, for
Okay.
various things, and like, the same, we have access to all the same stuff. But I've still learned like it's a relationships game more than
Mm.
anything else, So like, a lot of times it's developing relationships with people in other countries or in other companies that, can really help, like if you are looking for a particular thing.
Mhm.
So that I think is what's going to take me some time, is trying to, figure that out. And then the other kind of piece, as far as like really honing the brand and the marketing, was when we were with Try for Schools, we went through we call it, it was called the story brand methodology. Donald Miller writes
Oh
the
yeah.
book Being a Story, or
Yeah. Good
Building a
book.
Story Brand. And
Mhm.
I like totally resonated with his system. And so I bought the book. And so it was kind of like I literally like took a notebook and read the book and made a bunch of notes and kind of went through the process on my own. And then I was able to use that to build like my website and just kind of build like the content and things I wanted to do with social media. But it was really nice not having the pressure to immediately be like, okay, I got to be making X dollars in the first month in order to make sure that I, can feed myself and my family.
Mhm.
So like I was able to kind of just build by, kind of getting the word out. And one of the ways I did that was actually with my trip to Jordan, because I wanted to make a big splash. So that was honestly probably my most marketing dollars, was investing in going on that trip.
Well, that
And that
doesn't
was kind of
hurt.
how I started.
I
Yeah, it
wish
was
I
a
could
pretty,
market my
pretty nice
business like
marketing
that.
strategy, right?
Yeah, right.
But that was with Susan. So she actually led that trip. And I got to learn from her, on the trip, but also kind of make it a little like launching pad for, for my business as well. So,
All right.
yeah, so that was really cool.
So were you with that specific trip to Jordan? Were you with a bus full of people?
No. So that's the thing that I wanted to learn about, because like I was fascinated by Susan's, small group tours that she led, because I've only ever traveled with my family or by myself or whatever. I've never traveled as part of like an official group.
Hmm.
And that gives people, I think for the most part, like, ugh, group travel, gross. Like I'm just going to be on a bus and wear a name tag the whole time and
Yeah, I think of the Beavis
follow
and Butthead movie
somebody
where
with a
they're
big
going to
stick.
Washington, D.C. with all the old people.
Yep, exactly. And I was like, that's definitely not the most authentic way to like see a place, or, to like really feel like you got your own experience.
Hmm.
So what she does is she curates these really small groups of people, and they're usually people that will get along, like maybe they have certain things in common or whatever. And then it's like maybe, so we had 8 people total on our trip.
Okay.
So really small. So it was enough for a van essentially. So we were part of a group, but it was, like it felt like honestly like a just bigger family trip, and I didn't know more than just Susan before I went, obviously, and my son who came with me. But like by the end of the trip, honestly, it was like I had a whole bunch of new friends. So like that was
nice.
cool.
All right.
And I was like, if you get the right mix of people, let's say you even travel with 2 or 3 families, which is kind of what I'm hoping to do. It's a small group, but all the people, so it's like
Sure.
really could be like 5 people or something. So,
all right.
yeah. So that was super cool.
When you explain what you do, I imagine people are like, wait, so you're a travel agent?
Absolutely. That like every single time.
I feel like with calls on call, I get that. So you're an answering service. I feel like nails on a chalkboard kind of thing, but I get where you're coming from.
Right.
So tell me, how do you answer when somebody's like, oh, you're a travel agent?
Right. So yeah, and what's funny is oftentimes people are like, oh, so you're just a travel agent. And I'm like,
I love when they put that. Yeah.
I know, like, and I got that for like nonprofit things too. I'm like, they're like, oh, so you just like run kids events? I was like, you're like,
because it's that easy.
Hold on. Yeah, but like I'm just swallowing all my anger and rage right now. But no, like so it's funny because we were like, oh, so you're like a travel agent. And I'm like, yeah. I was like, but but I try to make every experience very unique and catered to each family. So I always say, I'm like, yeah, but and then it's funny because I think people in their heads they have a picture of like what that is, right? It's a brick and mortar where you have a bunch of brochures and you come and you pick one, and so I say like, it's funny, there's all these cool buzzwords like bespoke and whatever, and like customized, whatever. But so I try to be like, well, yeah, except that, I really focus more on just like your individual family, and every trip I create is unique. So, based on what you guys want to do. And the cool thing is, like, because I know, almost every single person that I'm planning trips for right now, or they're a friend of a friend, like, there's a vested interest and a trust built there, like on both ends, hopefully. So I think that's, maybe a little bit of a differentiator. So I try to focus on those things, but you're like, you hit it right on the head.
Expectation here. One of the other questions that I have for you is, when somebody comes to you and you're like, Katie, I want to go travel, see the world. Do they typically have an idea of where they want to go, or are they looking to you for suggestions?
Usually people have an idea of where they want to go. And in general, like, or they say like they give a climate or a geography or something, like I have something to go on. But what's interesting is oftentimes I'm doing a ton of Europe, like right now, like first time trips to Europe for people. And what's funny is I almost have to, like, you got to rein people in, because I think people see on a map, they see Europe and they're like, oh my gosh, all these countries are so close together. We can see 6 of them in 12 days. And I'm like, okay, so, so a lot of it is kind of
you could, but you'd be moving.
Right. I was like, you could, but you would hate yourself and me, like afterwards. So yeah, a lot of it is like trying to maybe like rein in expectations, and also, maybe like talk a little bit about like mindset and helping people understand like, how to get to and from, because a lot of times it's, like they're really ambitious. And I'm like, but let's think, like, if you came to the United States for, a week, you probably wouldn't try to hit, 5 states. You'd probably say like 2, maybe 3, depending on the number of times like time you have. And it's similar like that with Europe. The states are like countries, so trying to help people understand, except with Europe, there's a lot of mountains in between places. So it's not, like, I'm like, turn your map on geography or like topography mode, so you can see, like, that's why it's going to take so long to get from here to there,
Funny.
Yeah.
I was watching a video on Spain and talking about how Spain has lots of people, but all in very concentrated places.
Right.
And it's like, because we have mountains.
Yep.
They
You're
put
like,
them
oh,
all
that's
over here.
weird. There's yeah, a whole lot of nothing. So yeah. So it's kind of fun because you get to kind of be part of somebody's like learning process.
Hmm.
And I guess what I'm still also figuring out is like I want to recommend things. That's why people are coming to me, right? But at the same time, some of these things you just have to learn by being in it and doing it yourself, and like my pace isn't always everybody's pace, and like I guess I in general move at a fast pace, but I try to slow down a little
Hmm.
on vacations because like I don't want to be packing up my suitcase every other day,
Right.
but some people they're okay with that. But I think like if we want to be responsible and mindful travelers and really grow from the experience, like it's awesome to be able to just spend a little bit more time everywhere we go.
Hmm. That's fair. Very good
Yeah.
point. Very good
Yeah.
point. So how do you market your new business?
Well, right now it's a lot of I mean, I'd say on social is where I'm getting a lot of, people and inquiries and stuff like that. And then otherwise it's word of mouth and referrals from people. There are a lot of options as a travel advisor, I think is the now new word people are talking
Advisor. I
about.
love it. All right.
Right. But like, so you can do a lot of like referral like things, through this big global company that I'm a part of as well. But like, I'm mostly just doing it for, family, friends, people like that, for now. So that's how it's working. And I guess I'm hoping, that as people start traveling and they have awesome experiences, that then maybe they'll either refer a friend, like that'll continue, or they'll be a repeat customer, and want to come back for their next trip.
Gotcha. Fair.
Yeah. So that's the goal right now anyway.
All right. I love it. So tell me about
Yeah.
the process. Somebody comes to you and they're like, Katie, I want to travel and I want to go see France. I don't know, whatever, something
Yeah,
like
actually,
that.
I'm working on 2 France trips today. So
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Perfect. That I had no idea. So um tell me about the process about how you take that, like you want to go to France and spit out a trip on the other end of that machine.
Yeah. So I kind of gave people a couple options with setting things up because sometimes their needs, like sometimes they need everything, from A to Z. And then other times they're like, we already have, this and this booked, or we know we're going to be here for this portion and we just need your help with this portion. And so, I kind of have like an hourly, like a consult sort of like option where, I'll just kind of do like a particular portion of a trip for somebody.
Mhm.
And then I also have like a full like planning, like I will plan everything for your trip. And then that works slightly differently. So there's like a flat fee that just covers like basically an interview session, like a planning session. And then it covers things like I have an app that people can use, like where I'll organize everything for their trip that they can use. And it's everything in one place.
Nice.
And then otherwise it's hourly based on how far out their trip is. So like if someone comes to me and they want to travel in February, I'm going to have to, I want to help them. Right. But that's going to make me reprioritize everything else that I'm working on. And so
Mhm.
like if your trip is a year from now, I've got way more time. And so if you come to me with advance notice, you will pay less. So that's kind of the way that I'm doing it now. And then I always try to give people an estimate of like, after that initial meeting, here's how long I think this would take, and then I give them a budget and say like 8 to 10 hours and the rate is this, because your trip starts here.
Mhm.
And then make sure that they have that information up front. And then, I always then will let them know like when I'm getting close to that, because I think with people's kind of hesitancy towards using a travel advisor, I think a lot of it stems from like, how are you getting paid? Or like, how do I know you're not pushing me towards things where you get commission and like
Sure.
that kind of stuff? And so I feel like if you take those pieces out and you're like, look, I'm just, I'm working hourly. So that and like that sort of frees me up to just be like, here's the best thing for you, and if it's an Airbnb where I get nothing out of it, that's fine. Cause like I just want to be paid for my time, like
Mhm.
rather than being like, well, I don't get paid if you, with for all the rail tickets I'm booking for you, but I still need to do it because you're going to 5 cities. Like it starts to, like I think it just puts everybody on a more equal playing field.
Sure.
So that's kind of like how the structure is set up. But like with every client that wants to do a full trip, like with me, I set up an hour like interview and like learning session, which is mostly just me asking them all kinds of questions. Cause I want to know like, why they're going on this trip. What do they want to learn? What stresses them out on trips? Like some of those kinds of things. And I think a lot of times people just don't go to that level, but that to me is where, you can really make or break somebody's trip.
Gotcha. So is these systems, these questions and all that jazz, is that something that you came up with on your own through your travels, or is this from
a lot of it is stuff that like I made. Also, I made up the whole interview process. And it was like, so for a long time, like a year, I had a notebook, and anytime I had a question of like, ooh, this would be a good thing to ask people, I would just write it down. So I actually have it still. It's called, you probably can't see it, but it's my big ideas notebook. But it's, I kind of came up with all the questions just based off of like things I've learned, so I've gone on a lot of trips with other family members. So like multi-generational trips or whatever. And a lot of it was like learnings from those trips of like, oh, we should have known that like, so-and-so is not a morning person, or that like so-and-so really wanted to do this hike. And we're all talking about doing these other things, and this person didn't get the one thing that they really wanted to do. So like bring people together, make sure everybody's on the same playing field and gets a chance to hear each other too. Because it's like where I've seen trips go south, including some of my own, in various moments, is like people just weren't on the same page, and like, or people were rushed and they didn't want to be rushed, like that.
All right. So we don't have a ton of time left.
Horror stories too, right?
Oh, I can definitely imagine.
Yeah.
Tell me some of the tips for traveling that you could share with people from all your experiences, things that you've learned, maybe the hard way.
Yeah, sure. I know, right? Well, it's like, I think, again, those are the times that we probably learn the most, right? Are the ones like didn't go well. So like, I guess for me, the first one is sort of the repeat. I mentioned this one earlier, but like when you're going to a new country or countries, you're going on a trip, I always say like, take the number of days you have on the ground, like not including your travel days, and divide by 3. And that should be your benchmark for like, if we're going somewhere for 12 days, we're going to pick 4 at most, like places to visit. Because I think people tend to, again, underestimate the amount of time it takes to get to and from each place. And so, so that'd be one big tip for me. And I guess another one would be like, think about who's going on your trip and really take everybody's, like activity level and interests and stuff into consideration. Because I've learned from traveling with our kids that like, they're not going to be able to move at the same pace as us, and their interests are, different. And so if I would have had all my own list of like things I want to see and like just drag them along on the trip, like that's not really fun for them. And it's not really fun for me, then either. So trying to like shift what you're doing based on who you're with and like, their interests and things like that, I think is another important tip. And I guess another one that I would say is like, be open to trying new things, like, cause I think a lot of times like, so like, I'm not much of an museum person. I know I'm like, I feel like I make myself sound uncultured when I say that, but like, I'm not.
You don't want to read all the plaques, right?
Right. I was like, oh man, I don't want to spend all day looking at, but I went to a museum, and instead I had read something about like how you can hire guides to like guide you through, like different museums and stuff. And oftentimes like you'll learn a lot more because you just have the right person sharing stuff, and anything can be interesting if you know what you're looking at or what you're doing. And so being open to like exploring new things, but then maybe just doing it in a different way. So I think like that is another like good tip, because I think like we kind of short ourselves when we're like, well, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, and you're like, well, but what if this city is particularly famous for one of those 2 things? And like, why are you there? So yeah, that's I guess another one that I've kind of learned.
That's so funny. I'm trying to think where my wife and kid were at. If we were in, man, I want to say it was St. Louis. I don't know for sure what town we were in, but anyways, this was a few years ago. It was pre-pandemic, and we went. There's a famous art museum I want to check out, and I went in there, and so my kid had to be 5, 6 years old, something like that. And he's like, "This has got to be the most boring thing that we've ever seen." Right. And it's kind of funny because I took art history classes and stuff like that when I was in college. So it was kind of, a lot of it was interesting, not a ton. but
Right.
it was.
Well, I'm glad to hear you say that, because I was like, as soon as you said you were art history, I was like, oh no, I've totally outed myself to James as like a, fool.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. My wife makes fun of me because I'm the guy when we go to a museum, I'm reading every single plaque.
Right. Right.
And she's just like, huh, a rock. Got it.
Yeah.
Just
Moving on,
moving on. And I'm like,
Mhm.
no, don't you get it? Because I read this plaque, right? This is a moon rock, whatever. What
Right.
actually had to happen for that rock to get in this place and be stored here and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And it's like
Like,
I realize, you can be interested in those things for, but most kids it'll be for like an hour max. And they're like, all right, cool, I'm done,
yeah.
like,
Yeah. I don't even know if we got that. Maybe
yeah.
15 minutes.
Right. But it's like there's so many cool things now that you can do. Like, so I mentioned the guide, but like I'm working with a family that's going to Paris, and they want to go to the Louvre. And there's a company that does essentially like treasure hunts through the
Oh,
Louvre for
oh,
kids, like geared to towards different ages and things like that. So like
that's clever.
you can actually, so you're engaging your kids because like, hey, let's give them a cool thing to like a scavenger hunt. Like most kids will be engaged in that. And like and people learn like while they're having fun, but they don't realize it, but it's just like a way
Oh,
to engage people. And then it's like the parents get to still see the art, but the
yeah.
kids are engaged too. So it's like trying to like look at things in a different way, or, like do that. Oh, other tip, I have to put this out there because like, honestly, my favorite way to see a new city is to eat food like in that
Oh,
place,
amen to
like
that.
I spend way too much time probably like coming up with like, okay, here are the 50 restaurants you should see in your 4-day trip when you're there. But like, you're never going to do it. But anyway, like, we usually do a food tour in every city that we go to. And we do it on like maybe the first or second day because, you get the lay of the land, a little bit, and then you get to kind of like sample a bunch of the local things. So you feel like you've like learned something and you get to eat it too, which is the best kind of learning.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3, you've got these cool places that you could probably get back to or like go check out again later, like in your trip, or like, oh, we could go back here for dinner, or like we could go hit up this bakery for breakfast, another day.
Yeah.
And then, it's just kind of cool to just know some things, like part of the discomfort of being in a new place is you're like, I don't know where anything is. I don't know if this is good or not, but if you go on a food tour, they're not going to take you to bad places. So
Interesting. It reminds me of when we went, my buddy and I go to a different town every year. Just the two of us knock out 4 days, and
yeah.
we both
Oh,
travel
that's so
very
cool. I
quickly.
love that.
We ended up in Boston quite a few years back,
Wonderful.
and we asked the cab driver, Uber driver, whatever,
Mhm.
where we should check out. And I remember he's like, you had lobster tails?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? No. And
Mhm.
he's like, you got to check them out. So we were expecting lobster
Right.
tails. And there's an Italian pastry place that's open 24/7, 365. I think it's 365, whatever. It was 24/7 when we were there.
Yeah.
And lobster tails are this huge stuffed pastry with this huge cream. And it was
Whoa.
huge.
Well, that sounds amazing.
We went there every night.
Yeah.
So we made it was so funny because we would
Right.
end the night after, food, drink, whatever. 3 a.m, we're getting donuts.
You're like, gotta
or
hit up
whatever.
get our lobster tail for the day.
Yeah, it was crazy because we met some super cool people there. Because even 3, 4 a.m, this place
Right.
is bustling.
24/7. I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, also it's like you can always just follow the like, look for the like line of localish people out the door,
Mhm.
and it's probably a decent place. Like we did that in Jordan and one of the places in Amman, and I was like, look at this line. And it was for like this awesome dessert pastry thing that people had or whatever. And I was like, well, obviously we're standing in here. And like it did not disappoint. So yeah, look for the
Nice.
line, I guess.
Love it. What is your favorite place that you've been to?
So that's tough, obviously, but
Or top
okay,
3
so
if that's easier.
all right. So yeah, I'll give you top 3. So it may sound cliche and I don't really know why, but Paris is my absolute favorite place. Just because you can go there and, in any neighborhood, your day is totally different. But you don't have to really do anything to really enjoy the city, right? Like just walking around in Paris is a joy, like for me. And I've been there 4 times and it's different every single time. And there's always stuff to do.
Wow, that's incredible.
So I love that. But like the country, I suppose that my favorite overall trip that I've had so far is South Africa. and we did a safari, and it was probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen or done. Just, getting up and it's dark out and we're watching like a pride of 20 lions and their cubs,
Wow.
like just things I will never ever forget. But the Cape winelands that are just inland from Cape Town are beautiful. Like I was like, how does nobody know about this? But like incredible food and wine and things like that. And then Cape Town's gorgeous. So like South Africa is a country I want to take more people back to. So that's when I start my small group trips, that's a place that I want to start is in South Africa. And
Nice.
then my favorite place that our family has been was Australia. And we were there only for like a couple of weeks. So we saw Sydney, we spent a week in Sydney, and then we spent a week up by the Great Barrier Reef. But like I actually got an Australia certification through their Department of Tourism. And so we loved it because Australia was just beautiful, good food, good weather, wonderful people, lots of nature, like ability to be outside almost all the time. But there is so much to do in that country. Like, so I was like, I want to go back so I can explore all the different regions and stuff now.
Nice.
But
All
those
right.
are probably my top 3.
All right. And how about travel tips, just universally?
Yeah. Okay. So one is be adaptable. Like just don't get too caught up in your itinerary, because like things will go wrong that are out of your control. And like, that's maybe a hint for life, but I feel like we've all learned that, right? A lot in the last few years. But I
Indeed.
think, yeah, being adaptable and just knowing that like, you know what, we can be upset about something when it goes wrong for a little bit, but then we're going to have to figure something else out, so like trying to just move on and be like, what can we do here? And like, I think letting it go and being action or, solutions oriented will help you in a number of circumstances. So that's probably my number one. And then honestly, the other one is just be kind, just be nice, because it'll probably get you a lot further. Right.
Mhm.
And then it just feels better because also like you're a representative of your country, you're representative of, of so many things, like when you travel. And so, if you share kindness, like that's going to leave an impression on somebody,
Mhm.
and I guess if I had one more, if you have kids, bring them along. Because like people are just a lot nicer in general when kids are involved, like every place we've taken our kids, people are just so unbelievably kind to them.
Oh, sure.
And I think they're more patient with us too, because we have our children with us. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, so like, I think, and just expose them to new places and new people and different things. So like, our kids, they'll eat pretty much anything you put in front of them. And I don't know many kids that will say that, but we've been bringing
No.
them everywhere, and being like, just try it. If you don't like it, you don't have to have more, but just try it. And they'll
Right.
try everything. And oftentimes they're like, oh, wow, I like this. And sometimes it's stuff they wouldn't eat at home, but they eat it when they're over in a new country
All
because
right.
they're like, there's open to trying more new things. So
Sure.
yeah.
Not every place has chicken nuggets, huh?
Right, exactly. Well, and also like oftentimes it's like, like in France, for example, it's like kids' meals it's usually like chicken or something like that. But like, they'll get kind of similar food. It's just presented differently. And then
Sure.
suddenly it's like, it starts this like, oh, cool. Like I can eat all different kinds of things.
Hmm. I love it. And then final question before we get going here.
Yeah.
You're on an airplane for different opinions, right? Do you
Mhm.
talk to the person next to you?
Hmm.
Oh man, that's interesting that you have to delay on that.
Yeah. So what's funny is like I'll usually say hello, but I am not really one to strike up conversation with people on a plane.
Really?
Yeah, it might be because oftentimes I'm traveling with my husband or with my kids. And so I'm usually like, my husband and I get a chance to finally talk, like the two of us, because oftentimes
All
we're
right.
like, so I'm like, yay, we get to like actually sit and talk to each other uninterrupted for
Oh,
several
funny.
hours. Or helping with my kids, but I'm usually not the person to start the conversation. If somebody talks to me, like oftentimes I'll, respond back and I'm always kind. But I'm not usually like, let's make friends, and be friends with it. But also I kind of really love I never get to watch movies. So if there's movies
Oh,
on a plane, I'm like, yes, I'm going to watch all the movies I've missed for the last 6 months.
oh, that's so funny.
It's like my me time. I don't know. You probably are the person that does talk to the person next to you.
I will try.
Yeah.
And I'll just base it on their body language or anything if I keep it going or not.
Right.
But then there's sometimes like the last trip, it was an interesting flight. I was in the middle, which sucks.
Yeah.
And the guy next to me, he was a rock. I don't even know if he was alive, had a
Right.
pulse at the end of that flight.
Yeah. Sometimes those are funny stories.
Yeah, he didn't want to talk at all. He, like I said, hey, how's it going when I came in to get the seat?
Yeah.
And I think I got a grunt back.
Yeah.
So whatever. But I ended up talking to the woman that was sitting next to me for a little bit. You could tell like she was just like, whatever. So I was like, hey, how's it going? But then we got talking about something. And then he like perked up. But it's like,
oh, really?
no, you don't want to talk, buddy. Back it down.
Well, I know. You're like, wait a minute, go back to sleep. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he didn't say anything, but you could tell like he was clearly eavesdropping in the, I guess he was 6 inches away from us. So it's probably,
Yeah, I know, right? It's like, it's almost impossible not to at that point, but
yeah, I just feel like if we're going to touch elbows for 3 hours, maybe I should know your name.
right. Yeah, exactly. No, and like, I don't think I've ever had like bad conversation with someone.
No.
Either, you know,
No.
like, on a plane, it's like, sometimes it's, you know, it's like somebody that's usually just getting somewhere, or, you know, they've got a kind of interesting story or those kinds of things. But yeah, the people that are like loud snorers or like those things always make for a good story afterwards too. So
All right. I hope I'm not a loud snorer, but who knows? No one
I
ever
know,
told
right?
me.
You'll never know. One time I did the head bob thing, fell asleep, you know, did that thing where you fall asleep and then you wake up suddenly.
Yeah.
And I like shot both of my arms out to the side. So I like hit the person on the side of me and I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
That's awesome. That's
I'm
awesome.
real
Reasons to
tired.
get the window seat.
Yeah, exactly. They're like trapped in there.
Oh, that's funny. That's so fun. Yeah, but I guess in the end, I like getting people's story. So that,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously here we are.
Yeah, no, you're like, I feel like, and you're one of the most social people I know and like kindest and friendliest. So it's like, I'm sure you have probably made a positive impact on a lot of people's lives.
Well, I hope so. I guess I was going to say you probably take that to a level that I can't even touch. So,
Oh, well, that's very nice of you to say. I hope, like, you know, again, like there is like this nonprofit like mentality that's like, I just want to make the world a better place, you know?
Mhm.
And like, I'm sort of learning that like you can do that and not just run a nonprofit. Like you can do those things and make a profit as well, but like you're still doing good. So it's like, it's been a neat growth experience for me, I guess.
Fair. Totally fair. I love it. Well, Katie, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell us, where can people find you?
Sure. Well, thanks so much for having me too. I really appreciate it. I always love talking with you. So you can find me at travelmadejoyful.com. And then I'm also on Facebook and Instagram at travelmadejoyful. And we just started a YouTube channel as well. So my son and I, so you can search Travel Made Joyful on YouTube and find us there.
Awesome. Travelmadejoyful.com. I love it.
Thanks.
This has been Authentic Business Adventures, the business program that brings you the struggle stories and triumphant successes of business owners across the land. We're locally underwritten by the Bank of Sun Prairie. If you're listening to this on the web or watching it, of course, if you could do us a huge favor, give it the big old thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and of course, check out that other video by Katie, and leave comments below letting Katie know where you would love to travel, where you have traveled, and if you talk to people on the airplane. Always good to know. My name is James Kademan, and Authentic Business Adventures is brought to you by Calls on Call, offering call answering and receptionist services for service businesses across the country on the web at callsoncall.com. And of course, the Bold Business Book for the entrepreneur and all of us, available wherever fine books are sold. We'd like to thank you, our guests. We'd like to thank you, our listeners, as well as our guest, Katie Hensel, owner of Travel Made Joyful. Katie, can you tell us that website one more time?
Sure. It's travelmadejoyful.com.
Awesome. All one word, no
All
dashes.
one word.
Oh, that is super cool. You got that domain.
I know. I was like, gotta snap that up.
Kudos to that. Past
Right.
episodes can be found morning, noon, and night. The podcast link found at drawincustomers.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. I want you to stay awesome. And if you do nothing else, enjoy your business.